This is the world of the Micronauts, a Kroyer, the enemy, and the Micronaut Space Warriors, all sold separately. Space Glider, Galactic Warrior, Time Traveler, made to fit the Micronaut vehicles. Like the Photon Sled, you can stage make-believe battles against a Kroyer. Like all Micronauts, a Kroyer has interchangeable parts, so you can create your own toys. Micronauts, made of plastic and die-cast metal, each sold separately by Mego.
Micronauts number 38 from 1982 isn't just another issue. It's a quiet reset and a unique artifact of Marvel's shift into the direct market era. This week we're diving into the comic that blends Bill Mantlo's deep sci-fi vision with the talents of Gil Kane, Michael Golden, and more. We'll look at why this issue feels like a reintroduction, how it fits into Marvel's business strategy of the early 80s, and what makes its creative team one of the most underrated lineups of the decade. This is Micronauts as you've never seen it. So let's get microscopic. In this issue, the Micronauts tell tales from long ago. Commander Arcturus Rand recalls one of his most important lessons learned as a wing cadet, and Bug recounts how he and Acroyear first met and became close allies. Both stories in this issue were written by Bill Mantlo. Mantlo, who is the co-creator of Rocket Raccoon and Cloak and Dagger, is best known for his work on Micronauts and ROM, both licensed toy properties with stories included in the Marvel Universe. For Micronauts specifically, Mantlo recalled how one Christmas, he examined some action figures from Mego Corporation's Micronaut line, given to his son Adam. He said he began to envision the characters as small, microscopic even, inhabiting an otherverse apart but conjunctive with ours. He then convinced editor-in-chief Jim Shooter to obtain the comics license for these toys. Shooter then hired Mantlo to script the series. John Garcia penciled the first story. Garcia began his career as a storyboard and magazine advertisement artist. He began collaborating with different publishers and writers, and briefly worked for Marvel and DC in the early 80s. Gil Kane penciled and inked the second story. Kane is noted for co-creating the modern-day versions of superheroes Green Lantern and the Atom for DC Comics. He co-created Iron Fist and Adam Warlock with Roy Thomas for Marvel. This was only part of a brief run on this title for Kane. At the same time, he shared regular art duties on the Superman feature in Action Comics with Curt Swan. Cover artist Michael Golden initially started with the interior of the first 12 issues. He then moved on to other titles, occasionally returning. His other works include the Nam, as well as the co-creation of the characters Rogue and Bucky O'Hare. Inker Danny Belinati started his career at Marvel, inking artists like Pat Broderick, Gil Kane, and Butch Juice on the Micronauts series. He then moved on to the Fantastic Four and Captain America. He also designed the costumes for the various Atlantic Universe characters, including the famous Captain Canada. Bob Sharon was a prolific comic book colorist, best known for his work with Marvel from the 70s through the 90s. He colored hundreds of issues, including iconic runs on The Amazing Spider-Man, Captain America, and Iron Man. His vibrant palette and consistent quality made him a key figure in shaping Marvel's visual identity. Colorist Christine Max Scheele is known for her work as a comic book colorist and fine art painter. She began her career in comics with Marvel and made a significant impact as a colorist, particularly over 100 issues of Daredevil. She also contributed to Moon Knight with Bill Sienkiewicz. Her nickname Max originated in 1982 as a playful moniker from letterer Danny Crespi and stuck throughout her career. Letterer Jim Novak worked on the first story. Novak is known for his contribution to the development of the iconic Star Wars logo. Novak primarily worked at Marvel, but occasionally worked for other publishers like Dark Horse, Boom Studios, Image, Dynamite, and IDW. When this comic was released, Novak was the regular letterer for such titles as Avengers, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, and The Incredible Hulk, where he often lettered as many as 5 or 6 books per month. Fellow letterer Bill Oakley stated that Novak created the best shapes for speech balloons of any letterer he knew. Diana Albers lettered the second story. Albers is known for lettering hundreds of books for Marvel from the late 70s to the mid-90s. Comics she lettered include Iron Man, Ghost Rider, and Captain America. Al Milgrom and Jack Abel were the editors on this issue. Milgrom has worked as a writer, penciler, inker, and editor primarily for Marvel. Milgrom started his career in 1972 as an assistant for inker Murphy Anderson. Milgrom came to prominence as a penciler on Captain Marvel from 1975 to 77. He served an 8-year stint as inker on X Factor from 1989 to 1997 and is the co-creator of the superhero Firestorm. Jack Abel was DC's primary inker on the Superman titles in the late 60s and early 70s, and inked penciler Herb Trimpe's introduction of the popular superhero Wolverine in The Incredible Hulk number 181. He sometimes used the pseudonym Gary Michaels. After suffering a serious stroke in 1981, Abel rehabilitated his paralyzed right hand to the extent that he was able to ink and draw again, which he did through the rest of the 80s, primarily for Marvel. So who are the Micronauts? They started out as a line of toys by Mego Corporation. When Bill Mantlo convinced Jim Shooter to acquire the comic book rights from Marvel, a larger backstory for the characters were created. The Micronauts originate in the Microverse, a microscopic universe full of strange planets like the human-inhabited homeworld, which is made up of diverse spherical habitats that are linked together in the fashion of a molecular chain. Prince of Homeworld, Commander Arcturus Ran, undertakes a dangerous mission by traveling to the farthest reaches of the Microverse in suspended animation for 1,000 years. Unfortunately, while away, his former mentor and teacher, Baron Ka-Zar, has the royal family killed, and he ascends the throne as dictator of Homeworld. When Ran returns from his deep space voyage and discovers Karz's treachery, he vows revenge. The comic series tells the story of that epic war across the Microverse, pitting Ran and his allies against Karza. Joining him on this mission are Marionette, the daughter of the slain rulers of Homeworld and sister to Prince Argon, a highly intelligent animalistic alien from the jungles of Tropica on Homeworld, Acroyear, the former ruler of the armor-clad Acroyears of the harsh and rocky planet Spartak, Bug, an insect-like thief from the planet Calicak, and two droids, whom Marvel calls Roboids because why not, Microtron and Nanotron. The teen lineup often changes. Throughout the years, there have been several other members, including Biotron, Cecilia, Fireflight, Huntar, Pharoid, Scion, and Solitaire. The Micronauts toy line was the product of the Mego Corporation and consisted of action figures less than 4 inches in size that were known for their high number of articulation points, the bendy bits that allow you to position your figure. The toy line also included vehicles, robots, playsets, and accessories. Many of the Micronauts toys used interchangeable connectors and ports that allowed parts to be transferred and connected between different toys. Mego discontinued the Micronauts in 1980, prior to the company's bankruptcy and dissolution in 1982. Years after Mego's demise, other toy companies, such as Palisades Toys and Soda Toys, have attempted to revive the storyline. Just this year, Super 7 added Micronauts to their Reaction toy line and have released the first wave of action figures, including Biotron and Baron Karza. Meanwhile, the first comic title was published by Marvel in 1979, with characters based on the toys plus some original creations. Marvel published 2 Micronauts series, mostly written by Bill Mantlo, until 1986, well after the toy line was cancelled in 1980. In the 2000s, Image Comics and Devil's Due Publishing each briefly published their own Micronauts series. In 2016, IDW published a new comic book series, plus a live-action film version of the Micronauts was in development by Hasbro Studios and Paramount in 2015. In May of 2023, Marvel reacquired the licensing right to publish the Micronauts. Did you know that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Microverse of the Micronauts is adapted as the Quantum Realm? The beginning of both these stories in this issue feature our heroes on Earth 616, even fighting for their lives from a bird protecting her eggs. So how did the Micronauts end up on Earth? Their first visit to Earth occurred in issue number 1 in January 1979. In an effort to escape Karza's forces, they warp jumped from their ship, but because of the strange physics between dimensions, they exited the Microverse and arrived in our universe, crashing on Earth. They were Earthbound for about 12 to 13 issues, returning to the Microverse once again, but they often returned to Earth, as it allowed Marvel writers to ground the cosmic storytelling in relatable human elements. It also provided ample opportunity for crossovers with other Marvel characters like the Fantastic Four, Captain Universe, and Doctor Strange. Comics based on toy lines don't always translate well. For every Transformers, G.I. Joes, and Micronauts, you get Madballs, Air Raiders, and Cushkins. The Micronauts never really appealed to me as a child, despite the caliber of artists working on the title over the years. This issue specifically feels like a reintroduction of the characters, partly because both stories provide enough backstory to get the job done, but mainly because this issue was the first to go out exclusively to comic shops, so the opportunity presented itself for Marvel. As a whole, Micronauts tells a compelling story of deception, palace intrigue, and a good deal of action. However, I never really understood the need to make these characters micro. Why not just place them on another planet? To be fair, I haven't read many issues where our heroes have action figure-sized adventures on Earth. Maybe that is enough of a hook to keep me interested. Mind you, I have seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Ant-Man more than a few times. I see issues on Amazon.com selling for $25. Pricecharting.com has mint issues going for $84. These are off their highs from December of 2024 at $90. I see various issues on eBay going from $4 to $8. Comic distribution numbers are hard to find for 1982. I did manage to find figures for both 1981 and 82 combined, which totaled 7.83 million issues sold between a select few publishers, mainly Marvel and DC. The top 5 selling comics in those years were Mad, X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and The Avengers. Micronauts sold over 117,000 units, good enough for 29th place out of the 56 listed. 1982 saw the beginning of Marvel making changes to their distribution deals by offering publications exclusively to the non-returnable direct sales comic store market as opposed to newsstands. Marvel first tested this distribution change on the X-Men themed Dazzler #1 in 1981. The result was sales of over 40,000 copies from fans and collectible speculators, a 50% increase than the average sales of an X-Men. Marvel saw green in their eyes and began to roll this out in 1982, and while this would eventually lead to the comic crash of 1996, there was no stopping the train now. 3 specific titles, Ka-Zar, Micronauts, and Moon Knight, followed Dazzler's route and were dropped from newsstands in favor of exclusive distribution to comic stores, though they sold well generally. Newsstands had the option to return or destroy the unsold comics for credit. Comic distributors did not, guaranteeing increased revenue for Marvel. There are fewer ads in this issue than what is typical for a comic from this era. This is due to the fact that it was directly sold to comic shops. The advertisements included Crackerjack, Lego Expert Builder Set, and there is an editorial by Denny O'Neil encouraging discriminating readers to not pick up the latest issue of Moon Knight, which was also a direct seller to comic shops. There was an amusing ad for Ka-Zar touting the benefits of buying a specialty comic, such as more pages, creator insights, fewer ads, and more. Then we have the MPC Star Wars Snap Model Kits, featuring Battle on the Ice Planet Hoth and Encounter with Yoda on Dagobah. Snap model kits were easy to assemble models and dioramas depicting various scenes from a film or television show. What's interesting here is that MPC's previous models for the Snowspeeder and AT-ATs were of a different scale, so kids weren't able to easily recreate scenes from the film. The second series aims to rectify that with a full diorama of Hoth scenes. This week I wanted to find an interesting comic shop in line with our Micronauts theme. And while I couldn't find anything specific, I did come across Comic Quest in Lake Forest, California. I felt the theme of quest was an important one since our heroes are on a quest to free the Microverse from tyranny. So if you're ever in the area, I recommend checking out Comic Quest located at 23811 Bridger Road in Lake Forest, California, or visit them at comicquest.org. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Micronauts and the behind-the-scenes shift at Marvel, hit that like button, subscribe for more comic history content, and ring the bell so you don't miss an issue. Until next time, stay curious and remember, read the freaking comics.